This thing's sick.
It's a sight unseen.
You need someone to hand you a wrench sometimes, eat some pizza and drink a beer.
This man's tripping. Little oil leak. Tell him it's a 10% Cayenne.
Oh my God.
Yo, be real with me. How is this thing?
Maybe the last time we see the Cayenne. How's it going, everyone? Ben Morawski here from FCP Euro, and I'm really excited to announce our new build series. Now, for this project, we wanted to do something a little bit different and out of our norm. You might be wondering, okay, what did you guys build, or what is this all about? And we were really looking for a few specific things. We're looking for something fast. We're looking for something with towing capabilities. We really wanted something that we could take off-road and thrash on, and realistically, it had to be something affordable. Now, there was one car that we found that checked all of those boxes, and that was a 2008 Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Now, you're probably wondering, where's the car? And that's kind of what we're here to talk about. So this series, we're going to show you how we took that Cayenne from this, boring, to this, to this.
No, God, please, no, no, no!
So as you can probably tell, it's been quite the bumpy road, a little bit wet. But that said, we're really excited to bring you along for this journey on this Cayenne Turbo build. So as with any car project, you really shouldn't take it on yourself. You need someone there to drink pizza.
I can do that.
That's why I brought along my good friend Mike Hidalgo, not for his technical expertise, strictly for his optimism.
Tell me, what are we working with?
A 2008 Porsche Cayenne Turbo, so it's a 957, which is a facelifted Gen 1 Porsche Cayenne. This thing has a 4.8 liter V8 twin turbo engine with like 500 something horsepower. It does 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds, like just ludicrous numbers. Because it's a turbo, it's got air suspension, which I really wanted for towing. It's got PDCC, which is Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control, so it's got independent sway bars. This thing is super capable, 7,800 pound tow capacity. It's a perfect project car. I mean, came off the trailer, sounded friggin' sick.
Okay.
Drove around town, no problems at first. Went to put in sport mode, failure to go into sport mode. Okay. Let the car sit, drive it the next day. Now we've got chassis failure codes. Check engine light pops on. O2 sensors, maybe something simple. I mean, look, this thing's already honestly left me stranded. I had to tow this back from my sister's house. We drove it about an hour and a half away.
So the tow vehicle was towed home.
So not a great start for it.
But nothing shocked now than the full PPI you did on this, right?
Yeah, no, you should always get a PPI in a Porsche, and I did not do that. This was completely an impulse buy. I had the vision, all right, and I saw the car, and it felt right.
We got the pizza, we got the beer, we have the unreliable, untested 10% 957. What do you say we head back to the shop, and you can show me a little bit more about what we're actually getting into?
All right, we're back here at the shop at FCP Euro. We're gonna get the 957 up in the air. We're gonna put an OBD2 reader on it, see what codes it's throwing, why it's got that check engine light, why it left me stranded on the side of the road, why there's oil leaking underneath it, and really make that checklist of things that we know that we're gonna have to do in order to get this thing roadworthy.
Since Ben ignored the Porsche golden rule and didn't get that PPI, we knew we may be in for a bit of a treat. With the car up, we began going through the checklist that our very own Nathan Brown laid out for us. On the front suspension, we looked for any worn out bushings, end links, and ball joints. We pushed and we pried, and for such a heavy car at this mileage, we had expected to see more play than we did, but everything actually checked out.
The same thing went for the rear suspension. The only thing slightly alarming was the amount of rust in the rear control arms. Other than that, the ball joints and bushings were all in good health. Moving over to the brakes, they were clearly in need of a refresh. There's very little pad left, and the rotors had some decently formed lips. Since this was a turbo, it came standard with air suspension. The PASM, or Porsche Active Suspension Management, is something I was a bit worried about. as with any air suspension system, it can be quite difficult to trace down and diagnose the exact problem. And since something related to it had already left my family and I stranded, I knew there had to be issues with the system itself. The valve block visually appeared okay, and we couldn't detect any leaks from it. With the codes it was throwing, though, it certainly seemed to be electronically malfunctioning. There was no smoking gun, as the PASM electric harness didn't appear damaged either, so it still points to an issue within the valve block. The sound and look of the 135,000-mile air compressor showed signs of also needing to be replaced. The air struts themselves appeared okay, and it's fairly uncommon for them to have issues themselves. That said, the system as a whole was going to need addressing before this car would be considered roadworthy.
From there, it was time to drop the lower splash shields and see what we were looking at for our engine and transmission. Here's where a can of worms started to open up a bit on our 10% Cayenne. We had some fluid running from the front of the engine onto the front PDCC sway bar and back to the transmission. After a quick taste test and some more visual inspection, it only appeared to be engine oil, and a good amount of it. With the car running, it wasn't coming out with any sort of volume, and it was difficult to track where it was all actually leaking from. The issue with oil leaks is they spread easily with any sort of driving as the oil slings around. Diagnosing and fixing this will take some more time and patience.
The Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control System, or PDCC, runs off of hydraulic fluid. So we inspected the reservoirs and fluids, which, although stained, looked okay. Now, Nate Brown did strike again when we realized the coolant reservoir was cracked and started to slowly leak. At least this gave us a smoking gun for the coolant smell. From there, we found an unsavory workaround with the power steering line appearing to be held up with a hair scrunchie. Visually, the transmission looked like it hadn't been serviced or seen the light of day since it rolled off the line in Stuttgart. We recommend servicing this 6-speed Tiptronic transmission every 60,000 miles, so we'll be sure to refresh the fluids, gasket, and filter at the very least. The car feels good when shifting, so I think we may have avoided the somewhat common transmission valve body issues.
Moving up top to the engine, we quickly found an oil leak behind the vacuum pump, which was a good sign in terms of some of the lean condition codes that it had been throwing. That also alluded to finding cracked vacuum hose lines, which helped explain why our brakes felt so squishy. That potentially was our leak, but the vacuum pump is in the rear of the engine and we definitely have oil traveling to the front, so not very likely. Another common wear part is the torque mount, which we found the bushing to be torn as expected. Now, we could tell at some point the valve covers had been oily and wiped down. What we weren't sure of is if it had its gaskets replaced, then wiped down, or if it was the dealership we bought it from that gave it a little spit shine. We pulled the spark plugs and found them to be oily, leading us to believe we had a potential PCV issue or some spark plug gaskets that still needed to be done.
Last in my list of worries was the exterior of the vehicle. Here, it showed some normal 12-year wear, with a small crack in the front bumper, a cracked rear panel roof, which I think actually happened during shipping, and some awkward missing chunks of the running boards, which did appear to be completely rusted out. Now, Cayennes are notorious for having side skirts filled with gallons of water, so I can only imagine this car was guilty of that at one point of its life. There was certainly some rust throughout, but overall the car really was in good shape for the years and mileage. That said, it's going to be an off-road vehicle, so any flaws are really just added character. Things started to really make sense how you can get a $113,000 car for $13,000 12 years later. Luckily, a lot of what we found was pretty much to be expected and all very doable with a buddy, some tools, and a bunch of parts from the FCP Euro website.
Ben, now that I know what we've gotten into, it's not that bad. Honestly, I'm here to be optimistic. It's a 12-year-old vehicle. It's got typical 12-year-old wear. We can get this done.
That's very fair. I mean, a lot of our checklist is honestly things that I probably would have wanted to do no matter what. There's a little bit of troubleshooting that we're gonna have to do. There's a little bit of weariness on some of the oil leak situation in the air suspension, but I think we're gonna be in a good spot.
I agree.
I think we can basically take that checklist, make a cart on the website, order a bunch of stuff, and start wrenching.
Walk into the warehouse.
Yeah, walk into the warehouse and start wrenching on this thing.
Let's do it.
So hopefully you're excited for this build coming up. I'm obviously super stoked on it. Mike's probably gonna hate me in like 2 weeks. But if you like it, hit that like button. If you have any comments or questions or want to see something specific on the build, leave it in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe. We will see you on the next one. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Oh. Did you order the pizza? You can save some of that.
Is it good? We got it, right?